The woman who collapsed at Lincoln Zayne's ranch door on that blistering July afternoon in 1878 looked more like a dust-covered ghost than a living person. And when she managed to lift her cracked lips to whisper, "Water," he knew she had maybe hours left before the New Mexico sun claimed another victim. Lincoln dropped the horseshoe he had been shaping and ran to where she lay crumpled against the wooden frame of his porch, her dress torn and faded beyond recognition of its original color, her dark hair matted with dirt and sweat. He scooped her up, surprised at how light she felt, how her bones seemed to press through skin that had been baked and dried by days of travel. Her eyes fluttered open for just a moment, revealing irises the color of honey, before closing again. "I have got you," Lincoln said, carrying her inside the ranch house. "You are safe now." He laid her on his bed, the only proper one in the house, and rushed to pump fresh water from the well he had dug 3 years prior when he first claimed this land outside Albuquerque. The water ran cool and clear, a blessing in this harsh territory where many went without. He filled a pitcher and grabbed clean cloths, returning to find her exactly as he had left her, barely breathing. Lincoln had never been particularly good with people. At 28, he had spent more of his adult life with horses and cattle than human company, preferring the honest simplicity of ranch work to the complications that came with society. But something about this woman stirred a protectiveness in him he had not known existed. He dampened a cloth and carefully pressed it to her lips, letting drops of water slide into her mouth. She coughed, sputtered, then her eyes opened wide and she grabbed at the pitcher with desperate hands. "Slow," Lincoln cautioned, holding it back slightly. "You will make yourself sick." But she was beyond hearing him, beyond reason, and he understood. He had seen men half dead from thirst before. He let her drink, though not too much, pulling the pitcher away when he judged she had had enough for the moment. "More," she croaked, her voice like gravel scraping wood. "In a few minutes. Let your body adjust. What is your name?" She looked at him then, really looked at him, and he felt the impact of that honey-colored gaze like a physical thing. Even in her state, dried and desperate, there was something arresting about her face, something that made his heart beat faster. "Amelia," she whispered. "Amelia Ashford, Lincoln Zayne, this is my ranch. Where did you come from?" Amelia closed her eyes, and for a moment he thought she had passed out again, but then she spoke. "Walked from Santa Fe. My wagon broke down, the wheel just splintered apart. The man driving it, he took the horse and left me. Said I was not worth saving, that I could not pay him enough to wait." Anger flared hot in Lincoln's chest. "He left you, in this heat. That is murder. He took my money too, everything I had." A tear slid down her dusty cheek, leaving a clean trail through the grime. "I thought I could walk it. I thought Albuquerque was closer." Lincoln did the calculation in his head. Santa Fe to Albuquerque was over 60 miles, in July, without water or supplies. That she had made it this far was nothing short of miraculous. His ranch sat about 5 miles outside town, which meant she had covered most of that impossible distance. "You should be dead," he said, not unkindly, just stating fact. "I know." She opened her eyes again. "I wanted to die around the second day, but I kept seeing water. I kept thinking if I could just make it to water, everything would be all right. And then I saw your ranch, saw your well, and I just had to get here." He gave her more water, and this time she drank more slowly, with control. He brought her some cold beef and bread, which she ate carefully, though he could see the hunger in her eyes that wanted to devour everything in sight. "Why were you going to Albuquerque?" Lincoln asked, sitting in the chair beside his bed. Amelia finished chewing before answering. "I was supposed to meet my aunt there. She runs a boarding house, said she could give me work. I have nothing left in Santa Fe. My father died 6 months ago, left debts. They took the house, everything. My aunt was my only option. Does she know you are coming? I sent a letter 2 months ago. I do not know if she received it. Lincoln nodded slowly, thinking. The nearest neighbor was 3 miles away. Town was 5 miles. This woman had almost died getting here, and now she was in his home, in his bed, looking at him with those extraordinary eyes that seemed to see straight through to his soul. You need rest, he said finally. Real rest, for days probably. I will ride to town tomorrow, find your aunt, let her know you are safe. I cannot impose on you like that. You already have. And I am not the kind of man who puts a woman back out in the heat when she nearly died getting here. He stood, grabbed his hat from the peg by the door. I will sleep in the barn tonight. You take the bed, get your strength back. No, I cannot take your bed. You can and you will. This is not a discussion, Miss Ashford. He left before she could protest further, stepping out into the evening heat that was finally beginning to break. His ranch sprawled before him, 200 acres of hard-won land that he had built from nothing. The house was modest, just 3 rooms, but it was solid and it was his. The barn housed 6 horses and space for the cattle when needed. He had 2 hired hands who came during the day but lived in town, preferring the saloons and company to the isolation of ranch life. Lincoln walked to the well, the one he had spent 3 weeks digging, hitting water at 60 feet. It was good water, clean and cold, enough to sustain the ranch through even the driest summers. He pumped fresh water into a bucket and drank deeply, splashing some on his face and neck. The woman in his house, Amelia, had nearly died for want of water. It seemed impossible, almost offensive, when he had so much. The well had cost him back-breaking labor, but it had been worth every minute. Water meant life here, meant the difference between a thriving ranch and dust. He thought about her as he tended the horses, feeding them and checking their shoes. She was beautiful, even half dead from dehydration. But more than that, there was something resilient about her, something strong. To walk 60 miles in the New Mexico summer, to survive it, that took a will most people did not possess. Lincoln had not thought much about women in recent years. His work consumed him, and the women in town seemed to find him too rough, too quiet, too much the loner. He had been told he was handsome enough, with his dark hair and blue eyes, his tall frame built strong from ranch work. But handsome did not matter much when you spent most of your time alone with animals. Yet something had shifted the moment he saw Amelia collapsed on his porch. Something had woken up inside him that he thought had died years ago, back when Mary Henderson had chosen the banker's son over him, saying she could not bear the isolation of ranch life. He bedded down in the barn, using hay and a saddle blanket, but sleep did not come easy. He kept thinking about Amelia in his house, wondering if she was all right, if she needed anything. Finally, near midnight, he gave up and walked back to check on her. She was asleep, truly asleep, her breathing deep and even. Someone had washed her face and hands with the water basin he had left, and in the lamplight he could see her features more clearly. She was younger than he had first thought, maybe 22 or 23, with a delicate bone structure that belied the toughness she had demonstrated. Her hair, now that some of the dust was gone, was a rich brown color that caught reddish highlights in the lamp glow. Lincoln turned down the lamp and returned to the barn, finally able to sleep knowing she was recovering. The next morning he rose with the sun, as always, and found Amelia awake and attempting to stand on shaky legs. She had put her dress back on, though it was still dirty and torn, and was trying to make the bed. "You should be resting," Lincoln said from the doorway. She turned, startled, and nearly fell. He crossed the room in 3 strides and caught her elbow, steadying her. "I cannot just lie here while you work," she protested. "You have been too kind already. Being kind means letting you recover. Sit down before you fall down." She sat, and he could see the frustration in her face warring with the exhaustion still dragging at her. I am not used to being helpless. You are not helpless. You are recovering from almost dying. There is a difference. He went to the stove and stoked the fire, setting coffee to boil. I am going to ride to town this morning, find your aunt. What is her name? Beatrice Ashford. She runs a boarding house on 3rd Street, or she did last I heard. Lincoln nodded, measuring coffee grounds. I will bring back some clothes for you two. Yours are about done for. I have no money to pay you back. Did I ask for money? Amelia looked at him, really looked at him, and he felt that same jolt he had felt yesterday. Why are you being so kind to me? You do not know me. I could be anyone. Lincoln poured 2 cups of coffee, strong and black, and handed her one. Out here, Miss Ashford, we help people because not helping means they die. It is that simple. You needed water, I had water. You need help, I can help. That is just how things are done. Not in my experience. Then you have had poor experiences. He sat down across from her, cradling his coffee cup. What did you do in Santa Fe before your father died? I helped him run a bookshop. We had a good business, lots of regular customers. But he had borrowed money to expand, and when he died suddenly, heart gave out, the creditors came immediately. They did not care that I needed time. They just wanted their money. You have no other family, none that want anything to do with me. My mother died when I was young, and my father's family disowned him when he married her, said she was beneath him. Amelia sipped the coffee, and he saw some color returning to her face. So Aunt Beatrice, my mother's sister, was my only option. She left Santa Fe years ago, said she could not stand being reminded of my mother everywhere she looked. Lincoln understood loss. His own parents had died of fever when he was 19, leaving him and his younger brother alone. His brother had gone east, wanting nothing of ranch life, and they had not spoken in years. Family is complicated. That is a kind way of saying it. She finished the coffee and set the cup down carefully. Mr. Zayne, I truly appreciate everything you have done, but I do not want to be a burden. If you can get word to my aunt, I can make the journey to town when I am stronger. You will stay here until you are fully recovered. Then I will take you to town in the wagon. That is final. You are very bossy. I prefer decisive. He stood, rinsed his cup. There is more food in the pantry if you get hungry. Do not try to do any work, just rest. I will be back by afternoon. He left before she could argue further, saddling his best horse, a bay gelding named Duke, who could make the trip to town and back without issue. The morning was already warming up, promising another scorcher of a day. Lincoln kept Duke to a steady pace, not wanting to tire him in the heat. Albuquerque was growing, slowly but surely. More buildings were going up, more people arriving on the railroad that had come through a few years back. Lincoln did not come to town often, preferring to send his hired hands for supplies, but he knew his way around well enough. He found the boarding house on 3rd Street without much trouble, a 2-story wooden building that looked well maintained, with a painted sign declaring it Ashford House. A woman was sweeping the front porch, middle-aged and sturdy-looking, with brown hair shot through with gray. "Excuse me, madam," Lincoln said, dismounting and tying Duke to the post. "Are you Beatrice Ashford?" The woman looked up suspicious. "Who is asking?" "My name is Lincoln Zayne. I have a ranch outside town. Your niece, Amelia, is there." Beatrice's face transformed from suspicion to shock. "Amelia, she is here. Is she all right?" "She is now. She showed up at my ranch yesterday, nearly dead from thirst and exposure. She had been walking from Santa Fe." "Walking?" Beatrice dropped the broom and came down the steps. "Why on earth was she walking? I sent her money for the stage." "She said a wagon driver left her when the wheel broke, took her money and the horse." Beatrice's face went red with anger. "That low down, no good. I will have the law on him. Where is Amelia now? I need to see her." "She is at my ranch, resting. She is safe, I give you my word. But she needs a few days to recover before she should be moved." Beatrice studied him, her sharp eyes taking in everything from his clean but worn clothes to the honest way he met her gaze. "You have been taking care of her?" "Yes, madam. She is in my house, proper and safe. I slept in the barn." Something in Beatrice's face softened. "That is decent of you, Mr. Zayne. Most men would not be so thoughtful. Most men ought to be better then." Lincoln shifted his weight, uncomfortable with praise. "She is going to need some clothes, some proper food. I came to town to let you know she was safe and to get what she needs. I will get her things together. When can I see her? I can bring her to town in a few days when she is stronger, or you are welcome to come out to the ranch. It is about 5 miles west, the only spread in that direction with a windmill." Beatrice nodded. "I will come tomorrow if that suits you. I need to see with my own eyes that she is all right." "That is more than suitable. Come whenever you like." Beatrice went inside and returned with a carpet-bag full of women's clothes, which she handed to Lincoln. "These should fit her well enough. We are about the same size, or we were last time I saw her. That was 5 years ago." Her voice held regret. "I should have stayed in closer contact. Should have gone to see her after her father died. She is here now, and she is safe. That is what matters." Lincoln bought some additional supplies in town before heading back, including fresh vegetables and some good beef. The ride home seemed longer, knowing Amelia was waiting, and he found himself eager to get back in a way that had nothing to do with ranch duties. She was sitting on the porch when he arrived, looking much better than she had that morning, though still tired. She had washed her hair somehow, and it hung in damp waves down her back, and she had changed into one of his old shirts that hung on her like a tent. "You should be resting inside," Lincoln called as he dismounted. "I have been resting all morning. I needed air." She stood as he approached, carrying the carpet-bag and supplies. "Did you find her?" "My aunt." "I did. She is coming tomorrow to see you, and she sent clothes." He handed her the bag. She was worried sick. Amelia took the bag, clutching it close. "Thank you for everything. I do not know how I will ever repay you." "There is nothing to repay." Lincoln carried the supplies inside, and she followed him. "You needed help, I helped, that is all." But it was not all, and they both knew it. Something had formed between them in just one day. Some connection that neither could quite name but both could feel. It hummed in the air when they were in the same room, made words feel both necessary and completely inadequate. Amelia changed into the clothes her aunt had sent, a simple blue dress that fit reasonably well, and helped Lincoln prepare dinner despite his protests that she should rest. They worked together in the small kitchen, and Lincoln found himself acutely aware of her presence, of how she moved, how she looked when she concentrated on slicing vegetables, the way her voice sounded when she asked where things were kept. Over dinner, they talked more. She told him about the bookshop, about growing up in Santa Fe, about her dreams of maybe opening another shop someday if she could save enough money. He told her about the ranch, about building it from nothing, about the satisfaction of working land that was his own. "You ever get lonely?" Amelia asked. "Out here by yourself?" Lincoln considered the question. "I am used to my own company, but yes, sometimes. Especially in winter when the work is slower, it would be nice to have someone to talk to." "What about town? Are there no women there who interest you?" "There are women. But they are not interested in a rancher who lives 5 miles out and prefers horses to people most days." He met her eyes. "What about you? Was there anyone in Santa Fe?" Amelia looked away, and he saw pain flicker across her face. "There was someone. Before my father died. He said he loved me, that he wanted to marry me. But when the money was gone, so was he. Turns out he loved the bookshop and the promise of inheriting it more than he loved me. Then he was a fool. She looked back at him, and something passed between them, something electric and new and terrifying. Lincoln stood abruptly, gathering plates. "You should rest more. Big day tomorrow with your aunt coming." Amelia helped him clean up, and they moved around each other carefully, both aware of the charged atmosphere, both unsure what to do about it. When the kitchen was clean, Lincoln announced he would sleep in the barn again, ignoring her protests, and left quickly before he could do something foolish like tell her he had not been able to stop thinking about her all day. That night, lying in the barn, Lincoln stared at the roof beams and wondered what was happening to him. He had known this woman for barely a day and a half, yet she occupied his thoughts completely. He kept replaying their conversations, the way she smiled, how her eyes lit up when she talked about books, the resilience she had shown in surviving the impossible. He was falling for her, fast and hard and completely without sense. She would go to town with her aunt, start a new life, and he would go back to his lonely ranch. That was how it had to be, except he found himself thinking about other possibilities. About what it would be like to have her here, to see her on the porch every evening, to hear her voice in the morning. To build something with someone instead of just for himself. But that was foolish thinking. She had almost died getting here. She would not want to stay in the isolation she had been trying to escape. Morning came too soon and not soon enough. Lincoln did his chores in the early light, feeding animals and checking fences, trying to work off the restless energy that thoughts of Amelia had created. When he went inside, she had breakfast ready, eggs and bacon and fresh coffee. "You should not be working," he said, though he was secretly pleased. "I am feeling much better. And you have done so much for me, the least I can do is cook a meal." They ate together, and Lincoln realized how much he had missed this, the simple act of sharing a meal with someone, of having another person in his space. The house felt different with Amelia in it, more alive somehow, more like a home and less like just a place to sleep between work. Beatrice arrived mid-morning driving a small buggy. Amelia ran out to meet her, and Lincoln watched from the porch as the two women embraced, both crying. He felt like he was intruding on something private, so he busied himself with work, giving them space. But Beatrice insisted on meeting him properly, shaking his hand with a grip that was surprisingly strong. "Mr. Zayne, I cannot thank you enough for what you have done for my niece. If you had not been here, if she had not found your ranch." "But she did find it," Lincoln said. "And she is fine now. That is what matters." Beatrice looked between him and Amelia, and something knowing flickered in her eyes. "Indeed. Well, Mr. Zayne, I wonder if I might impose on your hospitality a bit longer. Amelia is clearly still recovering, and I hate to move her too soon. Would it be possible for her to stay another few days? I would pay you, of course." "That is not necessary," Lincoln started, but Beatrice held up a hand. "I insist. Room and board, proper rates. And perhaps I could send out some supplies, make things easier." Lincoln looked at Amelia, who was watching him with those honey-colored eyes, and found himself agreeing before he had fully thought it through. "She can stay as long as she needs, but I do not want payment. It is not right." "Then consider it a loan," Beatrice said firmly. "To be repaid when Amelia is on her feet. Fair, fair enough." Beatrice stayed for lunch, and the three of them talked easily. Lincoln learned that Beatrice had built her boarding house business from nothing, that she was shrewd and kind in equal measure, that she clearly loved her niece deeply despite the years apart. Before she left, Beatrice pulled Lincoln aside. "She talks about you different than she talks about most people. I can see it in her eyes when she looks at you." Lincoln felt heat rise in his face. "Madam, I have been nothing but proper. I know that. I am not accusing you of anything. I am just saying my niece has had a hard time of it lately. She deserves someone good, and you seem good, Lincoln Zayne. I am just a rancher. That is more than enough if you are the right sort of rancher. Beatrice patted his arm. I will be back in 3 days. That should give her enough time to recover, and give you both enough time to figure out what this is between you. She left before he could respond, driving away in her buggy and leaving Lincoln standing there, wondering if his feelings were really that obvious. The next 3 days passed in a way that felt both too fast and suspended in time. Amelia grew stronger each day, her color returning, her energy increasing. She started helping more around the ranch, and Lincoln found himself inventing reasons for them to work together, teaching her about the horses, showing her how the well worked, taking her to see the cattle grazing in the far pasture. They talked constantly, about everything and nothing. He learned her favorite book was Pride and Prejudice, that she could speak some Spanish, that she had never learned to ride a horse but wanted to. She learned that he had taught himself to read from his mother's books, that his favorite time of day was dawn, that he had once wanted to be a teacher but life had taken him down a different path. On the evening of the second day, they sat on the porch watching the sun set over the New Mexico landscape, painting everything in shades of orange and pink and gold. "It is beautiful here," Amelia said softly. "Harsh, but beautiful. It grows on you," Lincoln agreed. "I could not imagine living anywhere else now, even when it gets lonely, even then." He paused, then added, "It has been less lonely these past few days." Amelia turned to look at him, and in the fading light her eyes seemed to glow. "For me, too. I have been dreading going to town, starting over again. But being here with you, it does not feel like starting over. It feels like coming home." Lincoln's heart hammered in his chest. "Amelia, I know it is crazy. I have only known you a few days. But I feel more comfortable with you than I have felt with anyone in years. You are kind and good, and you do not want anything from me except conversation. Do you know how rare that is? You deserve people being kind to you. Everyone does. Not everyone gets it, though." She reached over and took his hand, and the touch sent electricity through him. "Lincoln, I do not want to go to town. I want to stay here, with you." Everything he had been feeling, everything he had been afraid to say, rose up in his throat. "You cannot want that. You do not know what it is like living out here. The isolation, the hard work, the danger. This is no life for someone like you. Someone like me. What does that mean? Someone educated. Someone who likes books and civilization and having neighbors close by. Someone who deserves more than a lonely ranch and a man who is better with horses than people." Amelia stood, pulling her hand from his, and for a moment he thought he had ruined everything. But then she turned to face him, and her eyes were blazing. "Do not tell me what I deserve, Lincoln Zayne. Do not tell me what I can or cannot want. I walked 60 miles through the desert because I had no other choice. I survived because I refused to give up. I am stronger than you think, and I know my own mind." Lincoln stood too, and they were close now, so close he could see the gold flecks in her eyes, could smell the soap she had used to wash her hair. "I am not saying you are not strong. You are the strongest person I have ever met, but I do not want you to stay because you have nowhere else to go." What do you want?" Her voice was softer now, challenging. "I want you to stay because you want to be here, with me, not because of circumstances or convenience, but because this is where you want to be." He took a breath, then plunged forward. "Because I want you here. I have wanted you here since the moment I saw you. And I know that is crazy. I know we barely know each other, but I feel more alive when you are around than I have felt in years. And the thought of you leaving, of you going to town and me staying here, it makes everything seem empty." Amelia reached up and touched his face, her hand gentle against his cheek. "Then ask me to stay, properly. Lincoln covered her hand with his, turning to press a kiss to her palm. "Stay, Amelia, stay here with me. Not as a guest, not as someone I am helping, but as someone I am building a life with. I do not have much to offer except this ranch and myself, but I swear I will spend every day making sure you never regret choosing this." "That sounds like a proposal, Mr. Zayne." "It is, if you will have me." "I know it is fast. I know people will say we are crazy, but out here, life is too short and too hard to waste time pretending we do not feel what we feel." Amelia smiled, and it was like the sun coming out. "Then yes. Yes, I will stay. Yes, I will marry you. Yes to all of it." Lincoln pulled her close and kissed her, and it felt like everything he had been missing finally falling into place. She melted against him, her arms wrapping around his neck, and for a long moment, nothing existed except the two of them and the promise of a future together. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lincoln rested his forehead against hers. "We should probably tell your aunt," Amelia laughed. "She already knows. I think she knew before we did. She is a smart woman, she is, and she is going to insist on a proper wedding, you know." "With a dress and guests and everything," Lincoln groaned. "I was hoping we could just go to the judge." "Not a chance." Amelia kissed him again, quick and sweet. "Besides, do you not want to show me off? Let everyone know you got the girl." "I want everyone to know you chose me. That is different." "Then we will make sure they know I chose you." That night, Lincoln still slept in the barn, though it was harder to leave than ever before. But he wanted to do things right, wanted to honor Amelia properly. She deserved that and more. When Beatrice arrived the next day, she took one look at them and smiled. "Well, I guess I do not need to ask how the last few days went." "Aunt B, Lincoln asked me to marry him," Amelia said, unable to keep the joy from her voice. "And she said yes," Lincoln added, his own smile matching Amelia's. Beatrice hugged them both. "I am so happy for you, both of you. When is the wedding?" "As soon as possible," Lincoln said. "But properly," Amelia added. Beatrice laughed. "Leave it to me. We will have a wedding this town remembers. Now, Amelia, you need to come back to town with me today. We have planning to do, and you need a proper dress, and there are people to invite." Lincoln felt a pang at the thought of Amelia leaving, even though he knew it was temporary. She must have seen it on his face because she squeezed his hand. "It is just for a week or two. I will be back before you know it." "I will come to town in a few days, check on progress," he said. "You will come for dinner tomorrow night," Beatrice corrected. "And then every night after until the wedding. You are part of this family now, Lincoln. Time you started acting like it." So began a whirlwind 2 weeks that Lincoln both loved and endured. He came to town every evening for dinner at the boarding house, where Beatrice fed him well, and Amelia filled him in on wedding plans. There would be a ceremony at the small church, followed by a reception at the boarding house. Amelia was having a dress made, simple but beautiful. They would have about 40 guests, mostly Beatrice's friends and regular boarders, plus Lincoln's 2 ranch hands and a few people from town he had done business with. During the days, Lincoln threw himself into preparing the ranch for married life. He cleaned the house from top to bottom, fixed the leaky window in the bedroom, built a proper chicken coop so Amelia could have fresh eggs, and worked on finishing the small room he had always meant to turn into a study. He wanted everything perfect for when he brought her home as his wife. His ranch hands, Pete and Tom, were stunned by the news but happy for him. "Never thought we would see the day," Pete said, grinning. "Lincoln Zayne, married man. Better up our game, boys," Tom added. "Mrs. Zayne is going to expect better of us than just showing up and working." "Her name is Amelia," Lincoln corrected. "And she is not that kind of woman. She is not going to act like she is better than anyone." "Still going to be strange having a lady around," Pete said. "Good strange, though." The night before the wedding, Lincoln lay in his bed, unable to sleep. Tomorrow he would marry Amelia Ashford, a woman he had known for less than 3 weeks. Everyone said they were rushing, that they should wait and be sure. But Lincoln had never been more sure of anything in his life. She had come to his door asking only for water, nearly dead from the journey. And he had given her water from his well, the well he had spent weeks digging that provided life to his ranch and his dreams. Now he was giving her his name, his home, his future, his heart. And in return, she was giving him everything he had been missing without even knowing it. The wedding day dawned clear and hot, perfect New Mexico summer weather. Lincoln dressed in his best suit, the one he had bought for his parents' funerals and had barely worn since. He arrived at the church early, nervous in a way he had not been even during his most dangerous moments on the ranch. Pete and Tom were there, cleaned up and grinning. Beatrice was rushing around, organizing everything with military precision. And then the music started, and Lincoln turned to see Amelia walking down the aisle toward him. She was beautiful. The dress was simple cotton, white with small blue flowers embroidered along the neckline and sleeves. Her hair was down, falling in waves past her shoulders, with a few wildflowers tucked behind one ear. But it was her face that struck him most, the pure joy radiating from her as she walked toward him, her honey-colored eyes locked on his. When she reached him, Lincoln took her hands and found they were trembling. "You are shaking," he whispered. "So are you," she whispered back, smiling. The ceremony was simple, conducted by a traveling preacher who visited Albuquerque twice a month. They spoke their vows in clear, strong voices, promising to love and honor each other for the rest of their lives. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife and told Lincoln he could kiss his bride, Lincoln pulled Amelia close and kissed her thoroughly, not caring that half the town was watching. The reception at the boarding house was lively, with food and music and dancing. Lincoln, who had never been much for dancing, found himself swept up in it, spinning Amelia around the floor while everyone clapped and cheered. She laughed, her head thrown back, and he thought he had never seen anything more beautiful in his life. As the evening wound down, they said their goodbyes and climbed into Lincoln's wagon for the ride back to the ranch. Amelia sat close to him, her head on his shoulder, and they rode in comfortable silence under a sky full of stars. "Are you happy?" Lincoln asked as they neared the ranch. "Happier than I have been in years," Amelia said. "Happier than I thought I could be. Are you?" "More than I can say." He kissed the top of her head. "Welcome home, Mrs. Zayne." That night, Lincoln carried Amelia over the threshold of the ranch house, both of them laughing. He showed her the improvements he had made, and she exclaimed over each one, making him feel 10 feet tall. They stayed up late, talking and discovering each other, learning the geography of this new life they were building together. The days that followed fell into a pattern that felt both new and timeless. Amelia proved to be every bit as tough as Lincoln had suspected, taking to ranch life with determination and grace. She learned to gather eggs, tend the vegetable garden she planted, even help with some of the lighter ranch work. Pete and Tom quickly came to adore her, competing to bring her news or help her with projects. But more than the practical partnership, Lincoln discovered the joy of having someone to share life with. They would sit on the porch in the evenings, Amelia reading aloud from books while Lincoln worked on mending tack or sharpening tools. They would talk for hours about everything and nothing. They would make love in their big bed and fall asleep tangled together, and Lincoln would wake feeling like the luckiest man alive. 3 months into their marriage, Amelia announced she was pregnant. Lincoln picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing with delight. They spent that evening planning, talking about names and how to convert the study into a nursery, dreaming about their growing family. "Boy or girl?" Amelia asked, her hand on her still flat stomach. "I do not care, as long as you are both healthy," Lincoln said honestly. "But if you had to guess," Lincoln thought about it. "A boy, with your eyes and your stubborn streak." "And your kindness and your steady heart," Amelia added, leaning against him. The pregnancy was relatively easy, though there were days when Amelia felt sick or tired. Lincoln hovered, worrying, until she laughingly told him to go do ranch work before she threw something at him. Beatrice came out regularly, bringing supplies and advice, staying for days at a time as Amelia got closer to her due date. Their son was born on a cold March night in 1879, arriving with a lusty cry that announced his presence to the world. Lincoln held him, this tiny perfect person, and felt his heart expand in ways he had not known were possible. "He looks like you," Amelia said tiredly, smiling from the bed. "He looks like both of us," Lincoln corrected. "He is perfect, just like his mother." They named him James after Lincoln's father, and he became the center of their world. Lincoln built a cradle by hand, carving horses and cattle into the sides. Amelia sewed blankets and clothes. They took turns walking him when he fussed at night, both exhausted but deliriously happy. The ranch prospered. Word had spread about Lincoln's well, about the good water and sustainable land, and he was able to expand his herd. He hired 2 more hands to help with the increased work. Money was not plentiful, but it was steady, and they had everything they needed. On their first anniversary, Lincoln gave Amelia a leather-bound journal. "For your stories," he said. "You always talk about the bookshop, about loving books. Maybe you could write your own." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "This is the most thoughtful gift anyone has ever given me. I know the ranch is not the same as having a shop, but maybe this way you can still have books in your life." Amelia did write, in the evenings after James was asleep, filling the journal with stories and observations. She wrote about their life, about the ranch, about the beauty and harshness of New Mexico. She wrote about almost dying in the desert and finding salvation at a lonely ranch house, about a man who gave her water and so much more. 2 years after James was born, Amelia gave birth to twin girls, Sarah and Emma. The house suddenly seemed much smaller and much fuller. Lincoln added on 2 rooms, working late into the evenings to finish before winter. Pete and Tom became honorary uncles, teaching James to ride and making the girls laugh. Beatrice remained a constant presence in their lives, closing her boarding house for days at a time to come help when the twins were born, bringing gifts and love and her particular brand of practical wisdom. She had become the grandmother the children would never have otherwise, and she embraced the role completely. The years passed in a blur of growth and work and love. James grew tall and strong, already showing signs of the rancher he would become. The twins were wild and sweet in equal measure, keeping everyone on their toes. Lincoln and Amelia grew deeper in love with each passing season, their bond strengthened by shared work and shared joys and shared challenges. On a summer evening in 1885, 7 years after Amelia had first collapsed on his porch, Lincoln and Amelia sat on that same porch watching their children play in the yard. James was teaching the twins to rope a fence post, all 3 of them laughing when the rope inevitably missed. "Do you ever regret it?" Lincoln asked. "Staying here, giving up the chance for a different life?" Amelia looked at him like he had grown a second head. "Are you joking? This is the life I was meant to live. These are the people I was meant to love. I would not change a single thing. Not even the part where you almost died walking here, not even that, because it led me here to you, to them." She gestured at the children. "I asked for water, Lincoln, just water, And you gave me a well, a home, a family, a future. You gave me everything." Lincoln pulled her close, kissing her temple. "You gave me just as much. More, maybe. I was just existing before you came. You taught me how to live." As the sun set over their land, painting everything in shades of gold, their children's laughter ringing out in the evening air, Lincoln felt a contentment so deep it was almost painful. This was what mattered. This was what lasted. Not the size of the ranch or the number of cattle, but the people you loved and who loved you back. The life you built together, day by day, choice by choice. Their story had started with a desperate woman and a lonely well on a hot July day. It had grown into something neither of them could have imagined, something richer and deeper and more beautiful than either had dared to hope for. The years continued to be kind to them. Lincoln's ranch became one of the most successful in the area, known for good cattle and better water. Amelia's writing gained a local following after Beatrice convinced her to share some stories with a newspaper editor friend. Nothing made them famous or wealthy, but they added another stream of income and gave Amelia deep satisfaction. In 1888, they had another son, Michael, a surprise baby that completed their family. By then, James was 10 and already doing real ranch work alongside his father. The twins, at 6, were still more mischief than help, but they brought joy to everyone around them. Lincoln built onto the house again, adding a proper parlor and enlarging the kitchen. The ranch house that had once been a simple 3-room structure now sprawled comfortably, filled with the sounds of children and life and love. Tragedy struck in 1890 when Beatrice fell ill with pneumonia. Despite Amelia's constant care and the doctor's best efforts, she passed away peacefully in her sleep at the boarding house. The funeral was well attended, testament to the lives she had touched, and Amelia grieved deeply for the aunt who had been so much more. But even in grief, the family pulled together. Lincoln held Amelia through the worst of it, and the children learned early that love meant supporting each other through hard times. They inherited the boarding house, which Amelia decided to keep running with the help of a manager. The income helped ensure their children would have opportunities for education and more. As the children grew, the ranch grew with them. James proved to be a natural rancher, with his father's steady temperament and his mother's sharp mind. The twins, despite their wild youth, became remarkable young women. Sarah with a gift for horses and Emma with a talent for numbers that helped keep the ranch's books perfectly balanced. Michael, the baby, showed signs of being the smartest of them all, devouring every book he could get his hands on. In 1895, James married a local girl named Catherine, and they built a house on the far corner of the ranch property. A year later, they gave Lincoln and Amelia their first grandchild, a boy they named Lincoln after his grandfather. Holding his namesake, Lincoln felt the circle of life closing in the best possible way. "We are old now," he said to Amelia that night, both of them exhausted but happy after a day of celebrating the baby's birth. "Speak for yourself," Amelia retorted, but she was smiling. "I feel exactly the same as I did when I knocked on your door asking for water." "You look even better now," Lincoln said honestly. Amelia at 39 was even more beautiful to him than she had been at 23. The years had added character to her face, wisdom to her eyes, but the essential light that had drawn him from the first moment still shone bright. "Flatterer," she accused, but she kissed him soundly. The turn of the century found them settled and content. The ranch was thriving, the children were grown or nearly so, and Lincoln and Amelia could finally slow down a bit, enjoying the fruits of their decades of hard work. They traveled some, taking a train trip to San Francisco that Amelia had always dreamed of, visiting Denver and other cities that had grown up since their youth. but they always returned to the ranch, to the home they had built together. The well that Lincoln had dug all those years ago still provided good, clean water. He had built a windmill over it now, modern and efficient, but the water was the same. The water that had saved Amelia's life and become the foundation of everything they built. On their 20th anniversary in 1898, Lincoln took Amelia to the well. He had Pete and Tom help him build a small stone wall around it with a plaque that read, "Here begins everything. 1878. Amelia cried when she saw it. "It is perfect." "You are perfect," Lincoln corrected. "This is just a well, but you are everything." They stood there holding hands, remembering that first day, marveling at everything that had come from one woman's desperate request for water and one man's instinct to help. In 1902, Sarah married a banker's son from Albuquerque, and Emma surprised everyone by announcing she wanted to become a teacher and move to Santa Fe. Michael, at 17, was preparing to attend university in the East, determined to study law. The house grew quieter as the children left, but fuller too, as grandchildren arrived with increasing frequency. Lincoln and Amelia settled into their later years with grace. They still worked the ranch, though James had taken over most of the day-to-day operations. They still sat on the porch every evening, talking and reading and simply being together. The love between them had not dimmed with time. If anything, it had grown stronger, deeper, more essential. "You remember what you said that first night?" Amelia asked one evening. They were watching the sunset, a ritual they had maintained for over 2 decades. "When I asked if you got lonely, I said I was used to my own company," Lincoln recalled. "But yes, sometimes I got lonely. And now I am never lonely. Even when you go to town and leave me here, I am not lonely, because I carry you with me." He tapped his chest. "Right here, always." Amelia leaned her head on his shoulder. "That is exactly how I feel, like you are part of me now, like I was incomplete before and did not even know it." In 1905, the ranch celebrated its 30th year under Lincoln's ownership, and the family threw a huge party. Children and grandchildren came from all over, plus friends and workers past and present. They roasted a steer, played music, danced and celebrated into the night. Looking around at the crowd, at the family he and Amelia had created, at the life they had built from nothing but hard work and love, Lincoln felt a satisfaction so complete it almost hurt. He found Amelia in the crowd and pulled her aside, leading her away from the party to the well. "What are we doing?" she asked, laughing. "I wanted a moment, just us." Lincoln took her hands. 27 years ago you came to this well asking for water, and I gave it to you, never imagining it would lead to this, to everything we have now. I knocked on your door half dead and you gave me life," Amelia said softly. "You gave me love and a home and a family. You gave me more than I ever dreamed possible." "We gave each other everything," Lincoln corrected. "That is how it works. That is how it has always worked with us." They stood by the well as the party continued in the distance, holding each other and remembering and giving thanks for the 1,000 small miracles that had brought them to this moment. The years continued their steady march. Lincoln and Amelia grew older, their hair turning gray, their movements slower but no less sure. The ranch passed more and more to James and his family, though Lincoln still rode out most days, checking fences and cattle, unable to fully let go of the land he had worked for so many years. In 1910, Michael came home with his new wife, a brilliant woman he had met at university. They settled in Albuquerque, where Michael opened a law practice, but they visited the ranch often, bringing fresh energy and new perspectives. Emma had become a respected teacher in Santa Fe, and Sarah was raising 4 children while helping her husband run a successful mercantile business. All of Lincoln and Amelia's children had prospered, building on the foundation of hard work and love their parents had instilled. Lincoln and Amelia became the heart of a sprawling family tree, grandchildren and great-grandchildren visiting the ranch, listening to stories of the old days, learning about water rights and cattle, and the importance of helping people who need it. On a warm evening in 1912, Lincoln and Amelia celebrated their 34th anniversary with just the two of them, choosing a quiet dinner at home over a big party. They sat on the porch afterward, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. 34 years, Amelia marveled. It has gone so fast. And so slow, Lincoln added. I feel like I have lived 3 lifetimes with you. Each day is a lifetime of its own. Are you getting philosophical on me in your old age? Maybe. Or maybe I am just realizing how lucky I have been, how blessed. Amelia took his hand and he noticed how her skin felt thinner now, how age had marked them both. But her grip was still strong, her presence still vital. We have been blessed together. That is the key. Neither of us alone, but together. Together, Lincoln agreed. Always together. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes from decades of companionship, of knowing someone so well that words become optional. The ranch spread out before them, peaceful in the twilight. The well, still providing water after all these years. The house, expanded and lived in and loved. The land, worked and cared for and respected. This was their legacy. Not just the physical property, but the love that had built it, the family that had grown from it, the life that had flourished because one woman asked for water, and one man had the kindness to give it. In 1915, Lincoln fell ill with a fever that worried everyone. But Amelia nursed him back to health with the same determination she had shown in walking 60 miles through the desert. You are not leaving me yet, Lincoln Zayne, she told him firmly. We have more years left together. And they did. Lincoln recovered, slower than before but still strong. He cut back more on ranch work, finally admitting that his 75-year-old body could not do what it once had. But he still checked the well every day, still walked the perimeter of the house, still kissed Amelia good morning and good night with the same devotion he had shown since their wedding day. The United States entered the Great War in 1917, and 2 of their grandsons went to fight. It was a terrifying time, waiting for news, praying for safety. Both young men came home eventually, changed but alive, and the family celebrated with tears and gratitude. Through it all, through illness and worry and the inevitable losses that come with age, Lincoln and Amelia remained each other's constant. They had learned early that life was precious and short, that you did not waste time on regrets or grudges. They had built their marriage on a foundation of kindness and respect and genuine liking, and it had sustained them through everything. In 1920, they celebrated their 42nd anniversary surrounded by 4 children, 15 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. The ranch house, expanded many times over the years, barely held everyone. But they managed, cramming people in, children sleeping on floors and sharing beds, everyone wanting to be there for the celebration. James gave a speech, talking about his parents' love story, about how his mother had nearly died and his father had saved her, about how they had built an empire of love from nothing but determination and faith in each other. They taught us that love is not just a feeling, James said, his voice thick with emotion. It is a choice you make every day. It is showing up, doing the work, choosing kindness even when it is hard. Dad gave Mom water when she asked for it, but he has been giving her his heart every day since. And she has been giving hers right back. Lincoln held Amelia's hand through the speech, both of them moved beyond words. When James finished, Amelia stood and the room quieted. "Your father gave me water," she said softly, but her voice carried. "And in doing so, he gave me everything. He gave me life, yes. But more than that, he gave me hope. He gave me a future when I thought I had none. He gave me love when I had given up on finding it." She looked at Lincoln, and her eyes held everything she felt. "I came to his door asking only for water. He gave me a well, a home, and a wedding ring. He gave me all of you, and I would walk through that desert 1,000 times if it meant ending up here, with him, with this family." There was not a dry eye in the room. That night, after everyone had gone to bed or headed home, Lincoln and Amelia walked out to the well one more time. The moon was full, casting silver light over everything. Lincoln pumped some water into a cup and handed it to Amelia. "For the woman who asked for water," he said softly. Amelia drank, then handed him the cup. "For the man who gave me everything." They stood by the well, the place where their story had truly begun, and held each other under the stars. Two old people who had loved each other through decades, through triumphs and trials, through the building of a life that had exceeded anything either had dreamed possible. "I love you," Lincoln said, the words as fresh and true as they had been 42 years ago. "I love you too," Amelia replied, "forever and always." The years continued as they always do. Lincoln and Amelia grew older still, their bodies slowing but their spirits remaining strong. The ranch was now fully in James's hands, though the older couple still lived in the main house, still walked the land on good days, still drew water from the well that had started everything. In 1925, they celebrated their 47th anniversary quietly, just the two of them and their immediate family. Lincoln was 85 now, Amelia 70. They had outlived many of their contemporaries, had seen the world change in ways they never could have imagined when they were young. Cars had replaced horses for many people. Electricity was coming even to rural areas. The world was modernizing rapidly. But some things remained constant. The land, the water, the love between two people who had chosen each other against all odds and built a life that mattered. Lincoln died peacefully in his sleep in the spring of 1926, at the age of 86. He simply did not wake up one morning, passing from sleep to death so gently that Amelia, lying beside him, did not realize it at first. When she did, she held him and cried, mourning the loss of her partner, her love, her best friend. The funeral was enormous, with people coming from all over New Mexico to pay their respects to a man who had been kind and fair and good. Lincoln was buried on the ranch, on a small hill overlooking the well, a simple stone marking his resting place. Amelia lived another 3 years without him, surrounded by children and grandchildren who loved her fiercely. She spent her days writing, recording the story of her life with Lincoln, making sure future generations would know about the man who had given a desperate woman water and changed both their lives forever. She died in the summer of 1929 at the age of 74, sitting in a chair on the porch where she and Lincoln had spent so many evenings. She was reading a book, and she simply closed her eyes and was gone, peaceful and ready to join the love of her life. They buried her next to Lincoln, and the family added a new plaque to the well, commemorating both of them. Lincoln Zayne and Amelia Ashford Zayne. He gave water. She gave love. Together they built a legacy. The ranch continued through the generations, always in the family, always honoring the memory of the couple who had started it all. The well continued to provide water, reliable and true. And the story of the woman who knocked asking only for water and the rancher who gave her a well and a wedding ring became family legend, told and retold to each new generation. It was a story about kindness and chance, and the courage to embrace unexpected love. It was a story about building something meaningful with another person, about choosing love every single day. It was a story about water and wedding rings, and the life that grows when you are brave enough to take what is offered and generous enough to offer everything in return. In the end, it was simply a love story. But it was their love story, and it mattered. It mattered to the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who came from that union. It mattered to the ranch that still bore their mark. It mattered to everyone who heard it and believed, even for a moment, that love could conquer impossible odds. The well still stands, over 100 years later, a testament to hard work and good fortune and the beginning of something beautiful. And if you visit the ranch on a quiet evening, some say you can still feel them there, Lincoln and Amelia, sitting on the porch together, watching the sunset over the land they loved, holding hands and choosing each other, over and over again forever.